Hi, everybody. Right by us is there Rosh HsShanah. I'm in the city of Tzfat, the holy city of Tzfas, and right now they're expecting more missiles. We're getting missiles all the time here. They're just nobody gets hurt. They just shoot them out of the sky. One fell down and went into a vacant house. It's a very protected place, Tzfas, but there's a lot of missiles, a lot of booms going on. You have to run a few times a day into your safe room. Um, but people are very, very upbeat, a lot of faith in Hashem, and we're seeing it's miraculous what it's doing because the people who have millions and billions of dollars and their whole life and their whole being is to kill us, and they've been successful in helping other people and being killing other people in other countries, and whatever they do, nothing happens. Very little happens. I'm very close with the BaYom Rebbe. He's my mashpia. He's real Kodesh. I asked him about general what's going to be. He says he's a consulate of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he says that he put the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He says Eretz Yisrael is the safest place to be. So I asked him. Was going back to Tzfas. It was before there'd been a lot of missiles that had been hitting like in other cities around here, like up north, Naria, and also in Haifa. The subject came up and he mentioned there are going to be problems there. So I asked him about what about the city of Tzfas. He says Tzfas is protected. And Baruch Hashem, we haven't had any problems. Hopefully nobody should have any problems. Right now, it's a very, very tense time. Everybody's expecting a major missile attack, God forbid, from Iran. And we're right now we just starting to going in to destroy the Hezbollah in south of Lebanon, and they found out documentation that they were going to attack us, like they did by the Hamas at maximum, and this is like a very very tense time. Baruch Hashem, Hashem is going to take care of us like He always does, and the whole world's going to see Einod Mofado, and Mr. Hashem will see we see such an arousal by everybody. Okay, so now I'm teaching this class. This class happened to be said at right after the 6 Day War, and it was the Rosh HsShanah after that, and that was also a time when everybody thought that Israel had no choice. Everybody was sure we weren't going to live, and the Rebbe says we're going to be victorious and tell everybody to put on tefillin. This Shofar God was talking about that the miracle that we see nowadays of the return of the Jews, that the Jews are returning from all over the world, from all levels. People with no background are becoming the most pious, sincere people, and they're putting their whole life, and that's who they are. There's no way you would even imagine this person never lived his whole life, but there's total changes. And so when we're talking about this is called the Great Shofar. The Great Shofar, the Moshiach Shofar, is the Shofar God, the Great Shofar. All the time it talks about when it blows, it says, but you said that the Sikha we're learning it's in Malukadav. It's on Yom, second day of Rosh Chodesh. It was said on second day of Rosh HsShanah. It was said on in Tafshin Chavches. That was and that Tafshin Chav Zayin. So it's 1968. 1967 would be the same in the glacier. Was when the 6 Day War was. It said after that. So they bet in the footnote that this is said. The Rebbe said this on the 25th of Elul, the year 5751, and it's a very special thing. It was going to teach us how why the Baal Teshuvahs coming from no place, and why are they so special? The Rebbe told my wife. My wife was a Shvei, is a Shvei, and her father's Reb Shvei, very, very big tzaddik, very well known in Chabad circle, passed away a couple of years ago. Shem should bless him, blessed memory. So the Rebbe told him that the American Baal Teshuvahs have a special level of sincerity, and everybody sees this. And so let's find out. This is the Shofar Gadol, the blowing of the Great Shofar, the Moshiach Shofar. This is what aroused the Baal Teshuvahs to do tshuva. This is what arouses to be, arouse the lashon. So the pasuk says, "And will be in that day will blow the great shofar, and though that there will come the people who are lost in the land of Syria and who are crushed in the land of Egypt to bow down to to Hashem, to God, and in His holy mountain in Yerushalayim. So it explains. So the Dvar Rebbe, the Admar Zaken, Dvar Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, explains. He says, why does it say Shofar Gadol, the Great Shofar? What is the special quality of the Great Shofar, Shofar Gadol? We have to understand that, and why? Because generally it says Yitak Hastam. Not only does it say that it will be in that day that the shofar will blow, the Great Shofar will blow. That uses will be blown, but it uses a language that means that it blows by itself in Hebrew Diktuk. That the shofar, it doesn't say who's blowing it, but just blows by itself. And he explains over there that through the arousal from the regular shofar, we have Rosh HsShanah, that it helps people who we have, even somebody who's a little bit close to God. But in order to arouse the Jews that are lost, like me, I didn't think of God for 20 years. Many of my friends, totally lost, that were lost in the land of Syria, which means they were lost in the vanities of the world. And the people who are crushed means they were just depressed and desperate, had a terrible life. The other side having nothing. And that it will arouse them to come to Yerushalayim and to bow down to Hashem. And this is through the Great Shofar. So the Great Shofar does an arousal that the regular Shofar doesn't do. In order to understand the special quality of the Great Shofar that will be in the future time, in the Maamar he starts explaining about that our Rosh HsShanah, that Rosh HsShanah right now, that this is through that the Jews, when we blow the shofar, it's a crying from the inner part of our hearts, from our inner self, Shalamayim B'Sechas, above understanding, you're crying, you're crying to Hashem, please help me. Like right now we're crying to Hashem. The enemies are trying to do us please, Hashem. I mean, I have a person here who helps us out, and a young man, he's recently married, and he came over to do something, whatever, and he told me, we started going right now into Lebanon, and he said, pray, we have to pray that nobody should get hurt. He's the whole being. But this is the idea, we have to pray, this is what we're talking about, that it comes from the inner heart. And through this, it's drawn down through, so this is a great crying out from the inner part of the heart that's above intellect, and through this it draws down the inner part of the heart that's above, and then the Hashem shows us His great miracles, His love for us. It says the Ratzon HaElyon, the supernal Ratzon, will that's above wisdom. But on this it says Hashem about Hashem by Shofar Yitaka talked about different levels of Hashem, godliness, names of God, how it's blown through the shofar. We're talking about the regular shofar, that the shofar that the person blows, it has to do with it's blowing from his inner part of his heart. He's crying out. And similarly, we see above that when that through the tekiyos of shofar shakos v'giyum panimis, that through this we bring down God's inner self, His inner being, His inner will, His inner ratzon. But so what's the difference between the regular shofar that we blow and the shofar gadol and that Moshiach Shofar? That the regular shofar brings down a revelation, because it all brings down a very high revelation from Hashem. Hashem's brings down His inner being, how He wants to help us. So what's the difference? He says the regular shofar, it reveals the inner part of godliness that's above in the worlds, but it has a relevance to worlds. It surrounds the worlds. Okay, so there's two different levels. There's levels when we're talking about godliness. There's a level of part of godliness. There's one level and there's two levels in it. There's one level how it's relevant to what's above, and there's another level what's relevant down below. So in this case, blowing of the shofar and God talking about Hashem, there's a level about Hashem that is beyond the world, but He has relevance to the world. And then there's the level of Hashem, how He's totally beyond the world. He's a level that's totally above it. So these are the two levels. So the regular shofar is we're crying out to Hashem, and we're tied into Hashem, but Hashem He sees us and He feels us and He answers us. The other one is a level that is beyond at first glance, beyond what we can do. It's just something from Hashem Himself brings down. The Rebbe's going to explain that we actually do something, but it's very interesting. We'll get to that soon, Mitzvah Hashem. Okay. So it says That just like the tekiah shofar of a person, it's a crying from his inner heart. Similarly, above, that the tekiah, that the blowing of the shofar, it's a bringing down the revelation of the inner part. The difference between the regular shofar and the great shofar is that the regular shofar, it's drawing down of a revelation of the inner part of godliness that's above the world, but it has a relevance to the world. Like we just thought, so the commandment surrounds and encompasses the world. But shofar gadol who shakus gilei apanimis. But what the great shofar is, what they're all bringing down godliness, it reveals the inner part of godliness of that above the relevance to it. Part of Shema Salvation is totally beyond the worlds. This is the Moshiach Shofar. It's also it has no relevance. Totally, even the part of what the lower level that has it's surrounding, it's above, it's beyond the world, but surrounding it. But this is even higher than that. It is that it says by shofar, by the regular shofar, it says At Hashem HaViHaya. But shofar it talks about ways of when we're blowing the shofar, it talks about different names of godliness, and even though that they are names of Hashem, and even though that these names, that these names, even though they're very high level, but they're still names. They're still calling a name. There's a level of God that's beyond name. There's no description. The shofar gadol and the great shofar, the Moshiach shofar, it's written. Nobody blows it. It doesn't say who's blowing it, and this itself, it's a bringing down the revelation of a level called sisimi the chasimi to ma'alim mishemus. The sisima, it means the hidden levels that beyond name. That even before a person is born, he has no name when he's first born, because the level that's beyond name. So beyond the name is he already has an existence of some sort. You can call it something. But the essence of God that's beyond everything, there's no way to label it. In order to understand the special quality of the great shofar, now we're on number 2. In order to understand the great quality of the great quality of the great shofar, the Moshiach shofar, the Tzamach said. So now we're going to talk about what regular shofar is. The Tzamach said it brings in his Maamar BaYom yitak v'yo b'shem b'kultei Torah ma shekatuv b'divrei hamaskal yinim ha'mishnah. So the Tzamach said it's bringing down. Well, how do we understand that? It says over there that when there's a holiday of Rosh HsHanah that happens on Shabbos in the temple, in the Mikdash, we would blow it, but we wouldn't blow it in the country, not even in other parts of Yerushalayim. Why is this? Why is that one place you pay some Mikdash you blow to other places, and it's talking about when the Shabbos comes on, when Rosh HsHanah comes on Shabbos? Why is this? He says because on Rosh HsHanah, on Rosh HsHanah you have to blow the shofar. Is in order. Why is this? In order to arouse. Through this, the Maila above, the tainuk for the creation of the world. In other words, when you're blowing the shofar, you arouse God. You arouse this level of godliness. And this level of godliness he sees, and he rouses his delight. He realized that you was blowing the shofar and crying out to me. He's so beautiful. He's so wonderful. I am so glad that I made the world. The world is so wonderful. I'm going to do this again. I have a delight. It has anachas. Since we say Shabbos by itself is tainuk, has pleasure, therefore in Rosh HsHanah, when he falls out on Shabbos, it's not so necessary. It's not so needed to blow the shofar, because you already have a level of pleasure. But in the holy temple, when they would blow the shofar in Rosh HsHanah, when it fell on Shabbos, why? Why is it there they could? Because it's also Shabbos. You also have pleasure. Because he says in Ta'anug, in pleasure and delight, there are many different levels. There's a level that says that the level of oinig, of delight, the wonderfulness, when Hashem hears this, he rouses a deeper level of delight in him, that's drawn down to the shofar gadol. It's much higher than excuse me. That's when we're talking about the regular shofar. So there's a special level of delight that's drawn down when you blow the regular shofar. It's much higher than the delight Shabbos. It's called Shabbos Oinig. Higher than that. The delight that Hashem sees us keeping the Shabbos, He's so happy with us. It comes from what's called the external part of Keter, of the crown. The crown, but the outer part. And this is called the root of the Netzalim, the root of the creations. In other words, Keter, as I said before, it's two levels. There's one level called the inner part, which is more related to Hashem, how he's coming down. And the outer part, just like you have your inner being and your outer part of how he relates, brings it down into the world. It's the source of the creation. So that's the Shoinig, that on Shabbos, it's the second level of the level of how it's related to us. But the Oinig, this pleasure that we do through blowing the shofar and the Mikdash, it's a level of the inner part of the Keter. It's called the bottom part of the crater. In other words, a much higher level. So we see even by the regular shofar, it depends when it was blown, has these different levels. That's why we blow it in the Mikdash. And the Tzemach adds over there that the Einik, the Tainik, the Bekinas of Taklan Shematzu, Yeshon Kamdre, because even that we talk about that the light, the level of revelation, the happiness of Hashem, in that's in Hashem Himself, which is like the higher level. That this has many different levels. We see that remember that by the shofar it talks about the level of Hashem that's totally beyond the worlds, and how we connect the bottom part of Hashem. We see that the pleasure. Now remember, we're understanding the level of what this means. Oinig, God creates the world every year. We crown Him. We blow the shofar, we crown Him, and He sees what we did, and He has so much pleasure with what we did, even more because we did more special than the prior year, and we have a new light here because He doesn't want to just create the same old world. He has to have something new, and every year He gets a newer light. And this part, the revelation of the inner part of Hashem, how we are nullified into Him. Then you have it's a different. So this higher level of tainig, of oinik, of pleasure, delight. It was drawn in, and you had the high level when in the first base of Mikdash, when they were below the shofar, it was much higher than the oinig, than the pleasure in the second base of Mikdash. And the first base of Mikdash itself, that the shofar that of Yom Kippur, the year of Yovel, the 50th year, there were 50-year cycles, they would blow it. And it was a mitzvah that would only happen in the first base of Mikdash. In the second base of Mikdash, we didn't have Yovel, we didn't have all the people on earth. It was even higher than the shofar of Rosh Hashanah. So you had this level of shofar, it says. Yet nevertheless, even the shofar of Yovel of the 50th year, it says, Haver shofar trua. It says that it calls the sound of the shofar. The shofar stam, the regular shofar. From here it's understood that shofar gadol l'mayla gam yegilish and nimshak ayadei shofar Yovel. That the highest level of the shofar blowing and the most oinig, and it's tied in more to Hashem than any shofar blowing, was on Yovel. But the blowing of the great shofar, because even there it only says the regular shofar. So the Rebbe is trying to emphasize how wonderful, how beyond belief is the level of Moshiach Shofar. That's what we're trying to understand, that is what awakens us. That's why many of us are all the lost Jews, all the Jews, you go out to the Chabad houses and the shuls and everything, all come from this level, from the Great Shofar, the blowing of the Great Shofar. We come from such a very, very special, amazing level. This is what the Rebbe is talking about. You know, many people were upset because the Rebbe would always give a lot of extra attention to Baal Teshuvos. But when you understand what the level of Baal Teshuva is, and the Rebbe sees this and he understands this, it's not just he was giving because they're lowly this, because they're special. Rebbe looked at them and saw their special essence just revealed and was delight. It's delight. It says that the Rebbe with other of the Rebbeim that were upset, his Chassidim were telling him, he did this wonderfully, he did that one, he did this, all great things. And he didn't do anything. They said, but you brought all these Baal Teshuvas, and the Rebbe smiled. It's a very special level. So let's go further. To add that, now we're going to say, now that the great shofar the Moshiach Shofar, great shofar that will be in the times to come, is going to be much higher even than the shofar that was at Matan Torah. Because it says that the shofar by Mount Torah says, he called shofar stam. It says there was the voice that when they received the Torah, the shofar was blowing, the blast of the shofar And then it continues. But he called Shofar holy chazak ma'od who shall call a shofar. It says, and it says that the voice of the shofar was strong and kept going and moving but who showed that the voice of it was very strong, and it was a great voice. So the shofar by Matan Torah was an amazing thing, but it's still in reference to that. It says it's only talking about the call, the blast of the shofar. It's not talking about the great shofar. In other words, even when the Matan Torah, there was the blowing of the shofar, as you see in the whole world, all the blowing. The Torah was given, the Ten Commandments, the Jews saw Hashem, all major things. It still is not the great shofar. It's still not Moshiach Shofar. Now, I'll tell you, I was at 770, the last one. The Rebbe gave the Sikha out, and the last time was Moshiach Shofar. He blew. I was there the first day and the second day behind the Rebbe. I'm very bad at times, maybe 40 feet or something, 50 feet behind the Rebbe. The same place both days, and it's very unusual because there's a big lot. There's no standing over there. Everybody moves back and forth. I was brought within a couple of feet the same place. And the first day, the Rebbe blew shofar was the same. The volume was the same. But the second day, the Rebbe just picked it up, and it just kind of blew by itself. One rabbi's like water. I've had other people do it, but I heard it. It was like, it's just like this, and there was no energy. It's like he picked it up, and it just flew out. That's what talking about the shofar gadol. It blew by itself. The Rebbe blew the shofar gadol, and after that we see even more Jews doing tshuva. So, okay. So it says that the shofar, but it doesn't call the shofar that was blown by the giving of the Torah the great shofar. From here it's understood that the great shofar that's going to be in the future time, it's going to be even above from the shofar that was the blowing of the shofar at the giving of the Torah. Like it's brought in Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer, it says there's a whole story that Abraham was going to sacrifice Yitzchak, and Hashem didn't want to say, he just wanted to test him that he would do it, and he said he saw he was do it. He said that they found right away that Hashem prepared them a ram. And this ram, it says, one of the horns where they made a shofar was giving of the Torah, and the other one is a shofar for times of Mashiach. So it said that it says so it says that the horn of the ram of Yitzchak, it says that the last one we heard its voice on Har Sinai, like it says, and there was the voice of the shofar, the kol shofar, and the Keren HaYamin is the left horn. But the right horn, it says, it's the great shofar. It's greater than the left, and in the future they will blow it. It will be blown in the future, as it says, "ViHi BaYom hu yitaka b'shofar gadol." It says it will be in that day will blow the great shofar. But tam al zeh shofar the man toy BaYom shofar stam b'shofar zeh hayi. So it says, the Rebbe says, what's the reason why that the shofar by Matan Torah was called the shofar stam, and the shofar in the future is called the great shofar? The Mitzvah Rebbe explains, because by Matan Torah, everybody had some kiruv kats. They had at least some closeness to godliness, even before the blowing of the shofar. Therefore, when you're blowing the regular shofar, it was enough to arouse them, because they already knew that they wanted to be close with Hashem. They had a feeling. Not like for me, my first 20 years, it wasn't in my universe, Hashem. I didn't think about God. I don't know how I did such a thing. Now that's all I think about. So it says but in order to arouse all the lost Jews, it has to be through the great shofar. There's totally no connection. According to this, it says Yitaka b'shofar gadol. Yitaka, it says that it shows that it blows by itself. What's it mean? It blows by itself, because the revelation of the great shofar arouses the lost Jews, the lost and crushed Jews, from itself without any arousal from below. So this is a very interesting thing, because later on the Rebbe is going to say that he's going to show something very special. But right now we're holding that it appears that it's such a high level of the shofar gadol that it arouses every Jew, because every Jew wants to be one with Hashem. In Dvar Malchus recently, they were talking about there are three knots. Generally, to tap, when you have three things, you need two knots. I'm going to take a little bit of break. There's a siren right now. We'll start over shortly.